Let's talk about Peter Parker's devastating last words. A lot of what I think makes the death of Spider-Man in the Ultimate Comics hit so hard is the fact that he'd literally just been berated by Captain America, telling Pete that he doesn't understand responsibility or the weight of what they're doing, and he acts like a silly and goofy teenager. While the other Ultimates were okay with Spider-Man going out and about and being a hero, Captain America very strongly disagreed. Steve had to leave in a hurry because Nick Fury's Black Ops team had went rogue and were decimating the city, telling Spider-Man basically to stay out of it and to stay on the sidelines. Which would be all well and good if it wasn't for the fact that Norman Osborn had just broken out every single villain that Spider-Man had put behind bars. And they all know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Pete is rushing home, desperately getting back to Aunt May and Gwen and telling them to get out of town and get to safety. Meanwhile, Norman Osborn, yes, this is the Green Goblin in this universe, had a dispute with Otto Octavius. Since he didn't want to go along with Norman's plan, he fucking killed him. Now, Spidey gets to the scene only to find Osborn's dead body laying there and decides he ought to go get help, but he quickly swings to the bridge where the Ultimates were taking on Fury's team, and as he does, he sees the Punisher getting ready to kill Captain America. He swings in and tries his best to shoot a web at Frank, which unfortunately misses, but being the hero that Pete is, his only choice was to tackle Cap out of the way and take the bullet himself. Shock and blood loss cause Pete to pass out, and he wakes up to find that no one's there to help him, that the battle's been fought and everybody's done moved on and left him laying. He knows he needs a hospital, but he's too worried about getting unmasked and the whole world knowing who he is. So he webs himself up the best he can. He sees this new Sinister Six moving through the city. He knows he doesn't have a choice. As the Six arrive at the Parker residence, they find his friends Johnny Storm and Bobby Drake waiting, who actually managed to put Norman Osborn down for a while, but the rest of the villains proved to be a little too much. The villains are ready to tear apart the Parker residence, looking for him. Spider-Man shows up to take down these villains all over again. Quickly slings the Vulture out of the picture, asking them who's next. Pete, being the genius that he is, thinks quick on his feet, busts a fire hydrant, and takes down Electro, Sandman, and Kraven all at once. And at this point, he's grabbing his side, thinking to himself that's about all he had left in him. But his fight was far from over as the Vulture comes swooping back in. At this point, a crowd's gathered around and watch this fight, and the Vulture throws a bunch of grenades, and Pete webs them up the best he can. While he keeps everybody else safe, he still takes the brunt of the explosion. About this time, one of Aunt May's neighbors call her and tell her that she sees her nephew out in the streets, and they're killing him. This causes May to do a complete 180 and head back to the house to go save her nephew. His villains that he was hoping he'd defeated were all slowly rising back to their feet. Even though he's exhausted, outnumbered, and damn near dying, Pete still manages to crack a few jokes at Electro's expense. He says to hell with Osborn, he's gonna kill Peter himself. Bullet goes flying through his back, causing him to explode and taking Sandman and the Vulture out with him. And even though she's holding the gun, shocked at what she's done, Aunt May wasn't going to stand there and watch Peter get killed. He tells her he's been shot, and she's begging people to call an ambulance, to which they said they're already on their way. Pete's moment of peace in his Aunt May's arms is very short-lived, because now his worst fear and greatest enemy is back on his feet. Pete gets Gwen and May to safety as he turns around to fight Norman. And even though the webbing's worn off and he's profusely bleeding out of his side and he can hear his own heartbeat, Pete's hitting him with everything he has. Johnny comes to and tries to help Pete out and take the Goblin down. It turns out he just added more fuel to the fire. He's desperate. He's hitting the Goblin with everything he has, with everything he can find. All the while, he's telling Norman that this is pointless. It's not going to bring his son back to life. It's not going to make him a captain of industry again. Nothing will magically go back to the way it was before. Norman tells him, yeah, but you'll be dead. MJ had heard the commotion, knew Pete was in trouble, and had stolen a truck to come help him. Pulling the fuel down, she hits Norman wide open, buying Peter a little bit of time, and telling MJ how awesome she is, he gives her one last kiss before throwing her to safety. Now, Norman's still taunting Pete. He's telling him he's never going to stop. He's going to kill everybody he loves. He's going to kill everybody he knows. Mustering up all of his strength, he picks up the truck that MJ used and tells Norman to shut up. He's tired of hearing it. He literally slams it down on the Green Goblin's head. He picks it up and hits him with it over and over and over until there's nothing left of the front end of the truck. Exhausted and wounded Pete sits there on his knees victorious. All that damage caused the truck to explode and he goes flying. Johnny comes rushing over telling his friend that he got him, and Pete says good because that's all I had. And laying there unable to move from exhaustion and blood loss, all of Pete's loved ones gather around freaking out and crying. Pete looks at his Aunt May and tells her it's okay, that he did it. She tells him to just hold on, that an ambulance is coming, but he tells May that it's fine, that she doesn't understand. Tears in his eyes, he tells her, I couldn't save him. I couldn't save Uncle Ben, no matter what I did. With his last words, he tells May, but I saved you. As MJ holds the fallen hero's body, his soul moves from our world to the next.